Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the very contentious issue of Roe versus Wade and the news that the Supreme Court, who made this judgment 49 years ago, looks set to reverse its own decision. Nothing's formally been announced, but it has come out as a leak. There's obviously going to be an inquiry as to who said what to whom and how. But it does mean that it's likely to announce that the currently the right to decide lies with the woman at a federal level, and so the states themselves have to obey the federal law. And what this decision reversal means that it is no longer going to be a federal decision; it's going to be a state-led decision, which is going to be problems for certain ladies in certain states where certain things may have happened to them, and they will no longer be able to legally have this procedure. This will have repercussions, some of them serious. We'll have a look at this article though. As I say, it's an interesting thing. I'm on the outside. I come from the United Kingdom. We have our own laws, morals, viewpoints, etc. We don't have the sort of level of vitriol, I suppose, that is around this subject in the United States. But I think it's going to be an interesting few days in America once this gets sort of sorted. I think there'll be possibly a lot of trouble. But anyway, we'll look at the article and move this on. Here we go. So we'll begin by just saying, before we get into the article, that America is riven at the moment with sort of one side against the other. There's division everywhere. You have liberal, left, wokey folk. You have normal people. You have obviously Democrat and Republican. You have the religious and the non-religious, or the extreme religious and the normally religious. You have class division, wealth division, colour division. It's a very sad time, I feel, for America at the moment, and it doesn't need anything else dividing it. It does need to come together a bit more, and so this won't help, particularly as actually the majority of people want Roe v Wade to continue, but the judges have decided that no, it won't. Anyway, here's the article. The US Supreme Court, let's put it back down. The US Supreme Court is set to undo 50 years of rights in America by scrapping landmark Roe v Wade decision. Democrats call for rights to be protected by law, while furious Republicans want to find who leaked the details. America's highest court looks set to overturn ruling that found excessive state regulation of these procedures was unconstitutional, effectively legalizing the procedure. Draft opinion, penned by Justice Samuel Alito, suggests that a majority of the Supreme Court's 9 judges are in favour of changing the law. Alito argues that Roe v Wade, in 1973 law, was egregiously wrong from the start and must be overruled. The ruling not final until the document is officially published, with the publication date expected within the next couple of months. So, yeah, I mean, this is 50 years of law, and they're about to change it because of a couple of judges. Something this important, you'd think, should be referendumed, but they don't do that very much in America, because they know that most people don't want the laws they're bringing in. They don't want to have a sort of set a precedent, if you will, of serious laws having a referendum, because it means that they'll never be able to get through the things that they think are important, even if it goes against what most people think. And you can't vote Supreme Court judges out. So you're bringing this in, and this will be down to Biden. It's going to be very unpopular. Biden's already unpopular. This will come in on his watch. It's the end of the Biden administration, I think. Even though, and this is the weird thing, even though it's more of a Republican flag-waving exercise. But because people will see that it's come in under Biden, he'll get blamed. But that's the way America works. Anyway, the US Supreme Court looks set to overturn a landmark ruling that effectively legalised this across America, handing the power to decide whether or not to permit the procedure back to individual states. And where you get the wrong state and you're a young girl, you could be in trouble. The draft legal opinion, which was leaked to Politico, reveals the majority of the court's 9 judges are in agreement on the issue, which would be enough to force a change in the law, though their decision is not final until the ruling is officially published. In the document, Justice Samuel Alito writes that Roe v Wade, the 1973 Supreme Court ruling, which found that excessive state regulation of A.B. is unconstitutional and it was egregiously wrong from the start and must be overruled. Alito, who was nominated to the court in 2006 by George W. Bush, argues that Roe's reasoning was exceptionally weak and the decision has had damaging consequences. Far from bringing about a national settlement of the issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. But there were few signs that the new ruling would do anything to heal those divisions, with protesters gathering outside the court in Washington DC last night. Indeed, and there's news reports if you go and watch them, there are a lot of people up there on both sides. Freedom to choose and right to life, and they are competing with each other. If the ruling is overturned, it would give the individual states the power to decide whether to ban it. The Guttmacher Institute, a pro-choice research group, has said that 26 states are certain or likely to ban it if Roe v Wade is overturned. As it stands in the US, this can take place up until about 24 weeks into pregnancy, but the exact period varies between states. For example, Texas bans it after 6 weeks, but Florida has a 15-week ban. Most people wouldn't actually know they were pregnant at 6 weeks, so it's an effective ban. And what they're saying is, and I believe, well, I'm not going to get into who and where, but let's just say that some states say that if, for example, you are R-worded, tough, you can't have this procedure because it's been 6 weeks, or it's been 10 weeks, or it's been too long. But you've been R-worded. Imagine you were R-worded by your own brother. Tough. So you could have a child that is horrendously genetically damaged because of the parentage, but you're not allowed to do anything about it because God. It's ridiculous. Partisan fighting over the issue began almost immediately, I bet, with Democrats vowing to defend the rights while Republicans demanded a probe into the leak. Mr. Katyal, the former acting US Solicitor General, said, "This is the biggest step back for women in decades. It will have proven consequences, and you can now have a flat ban on it on any state. And if the leak proves to be genuine and the Supreme Court has not denied that it is, it would mark the first time that this draft opinion has ever appeared in public before being officially published, a move expected within the next 2 months. A decision in the case had been expected before the court begins its summer recess in late June or early July. So it could be more than a month before the court actually issues the final opinion. If the court does what the draft suggests, the ruling will upend a nearly 50-year-old decision. Its advanced publication would also disturb an almost unbroken tradition of secrecy at the court." Right, and there they are. Look, these are the people, right? The 5 circled people are the ones, and look at them, all right? 4 men, 1 woman. The 4 men have decided, even though they've got no chance ever of being pregnant, those 4 men have decided that women all across the entire United States no longer have the right to say what goes on in their bodies. And they are saying effectively that if you are R-worded by a stranger, R-worded by a relative, it doesn't matter. You will still have that baby. That baby could be congenitally damaged. You will still have that baby. That baby could be unloved and unwanted. You will still have that baby. They are saying that women, you're worthless. You have no rights. You have no freedoms. You have no say in what goes on in your body. That's what they're saying. And what they're also saying is far worse. Women, you're going to have life-changing results. And in some cases, it will be the last thing that ever happens to you. Because if it's not available legally, there will be women out there who will have to go to places where these things will happen illegally, like they used to, and where women would go and would quite often never return from. But those four circled men and that stupid woman have decided that they've spoken to God, and God has said this is what happens. And people wonder why I disrespect and dislike religion. Alito also takes aim in the draft document at another 1992 case, Planned Parenthood v Casey, which upheld Roe's findings. Politico reports that, aside from Alito, 4 other judges voted in favour of overturning the law: Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorish, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, my apologies, all of whom were nominated by Republican presidents. It's the right. It's the religious right. A spokesman for the Supreme Court said the court has no comment. If the court has no comment, why have you got a spokesman? Politico executive editor Daphne Linzer sent a note to her staff after the story posted, expressing confidence in the story and their verification of the draft opinion. After an extensive review process, we are confident of the authenticity of the draft. We take our responsibilities to our readers with the greatest seriousness, she noted. She posted the entire draft opinion online. If the Alito decision is adopted, it would return the issue of the A's to the states, and over half are likely to ban the A procedure. Which is a terrible, terrible thing for all these girls in these positions. Now, I'm not suggesting that this procedure should be used regularly or as a form of contraception. But there are definitely cases where it has to be medically done. It has to be done. If a woman's life is on the line, it has to be legal. If the child is incredibly deformed or is the result of an R, then it has to be legal. It has to be done. But these God-bothering, I don't even want to know the words, that sit in their ivory towers and decide that, oh, we'll make a decision for 150 million people in this country. We'll make that decision because we speak to God and God has told us this. Numerous Republican-led states have passed various restrictions in defiance of the Roe precedent in recent years. Republicans could try to enact a nationwide ban, while Democrats could also seek to protect the rights at a national level. 26 states are certain or likely to ban it if Roe v Wade is overturned, according to the pro-rights think tank, the Guttmacher Institute. And of those, 22 states have already or near total bans on the books that are currently blocked by Roe, aside from Texas. The state's law banning it after 6 weeks has already been allowed to go into effect by the Supreme Court due to its unusual civil enforcement structure. And it's just because of unusual laws with Texas. 4 more states are considered likely to quickly pass bans if Roe is overturned. Yeah, all these backward states that want to damage women. What every woman in these states needs to do is next election, just vote Democrat. Even if they are naturally Republican, vote Democrat. Simply to send a message to the Democrats, this is what happens. And get a completely Democratic House. Can you imagine the upset if the Republican Party was more or less wiped out because they've just attacked half the population? It'd be unbelievable. This year, anticipating a decision overturning or gutting Roe, 8 conservative states have already moved to restrict the rights. Oklahoma, for example, passed several bills in recent weeks, including one that goes into effect this summer, making it a felony to perform one. So, again, backstreet. Ladies, you'll go there, but you won't come back. That's what's just happening. This is what happens in the backward states. South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem, meanwhile, said her state would look to ban it. She said, if this report is true and Roe v Wade is overturned, I will immediately call for a special session to save lives and guarantee... No, you won't be saving lives, love. The one thing you won't be doing is saving lives. And if you don't see that, then you've got no business being in any form of authority. It goes on. Republican Attorney General Ken Patton of Texas responded to the news by encouraging the court to return the issue to the states. Of course he does. I hope that SCOTUS returns the question of where it belongs, the states. This is why I led a 24-state coalition in support of MS's law, banning them after 15 weeks. I'll continue to ensure that Texas protects the unborn and pray for the end of it across our nation. And then watch as they're burying these girls. Hundreds, thousands of girls being buried. Just hours after the stunning leak of draft opinion emerged, hundreds of pro-choice and anti-activists gathered in front of the US Supreme Court on Monday night. And it was a big thing. We're just getting to the end of this here. And there you are. Look, the big red states have got near total bans. Yellow states, time limit bans, and the greens are likely to ban. So effectively, unless you're in sort of the seaboards, effectively, you've got big lunk in the middle there. New Mexico. I think that's Colorado above it. My God, I can't remember my states. But yeah, basically the seaboards, or that little bit in the middle. But the rest of them, you're not going to have one. Now, if you live in a decent state, then you'll be okay. But the rest of them, ladies, you're in deep trouble. It's a very divisive. You don't know where you're going, really. It's a very divisive thing. No one makes a decision like this lightly. Nobody just goes straight in and does it. Sure, have controls. Have controls. Have limits. Sure, but you can't ban it. You absolutely can't ban it. And there's a list here of Arizona. Here we go. Certain states have things. So in Arizona, Republican governor. This is the states I was mentioning. So Republican Governor Doug Ducey in March signed a bill banning it after 15 weeks, and the measure makes exceptions for medical emergencies, but not for R or I. So if the mother's major, illness, whatever, trauma, bang, okay, it's legal then. But if you're R or it's I, tough. Some states are fine. Some states are good. Colorado signed a bill codifying the right to have one. Connecticut, again, some controls, but you can have one. Maryland, that's got state funded, in fact. So it's very difficult to talk about this subject without using the words. So I do appreciate you sticking with me while I try to skirt around the YouTube rules, But there's other countries that have banned it. We're not interested in them. So let's get down to the end. That's it, really. I'm going to come up and we'll round off this video. I think the net result of this will be a rise in unwanted pregnancy. There'll be a rise of children going into state care. There'll be a rise in damaged children. There'll be a rise in poverty amongst single mothers. And there's going to be a rise in the number of young ladies who don't make it to a certain age. Got to be careful what I say, because they'll go into various backstreet places and unhygienic procedures, or procedures by people who don't know what they're doing, or even where the person doing it is a doctor. And we've seen this before. This has happened in places like Ireland, for example, where they've completely banned it. It does, of course, happen, but it doesn't happen officially. But people will go in, and a doctor will be there, and he'll be doing it in somebody's back room. It happens. Or they get the boat to Liverpool. In the south of Ireland, they'd get the boat to Liverpool, come to England, have the operation in England, and then get back on the boat. And that's what happens. Now, I think what's going to happen in America is you're going to have those states that will allow it, and there's going to be, train journeys, road trips, whatever. and they're going to go out of state. But that's only for the people who've got the facilities or the money or the ability to go and do a long road trip or a short flight, whatever it takes. For a lot of people, it's not going to be an option, and they're just increasing misery. And why? So they can exercise control on women's bodies because their God told them to. Well, my thoughts go out to you, America. You've made this constitution yourself. You've made your own rules, and you're going to have to live with them. But it's it's difficult. But my personal view is that it should be legal. It should be controlled, of course. But you shouldn't impose things on people where the greater benefit is to not impose them. Anyway, I shall round it off here with this very contentious issue. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.